The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
Today's world news, what it means, where it's taking us.
I bring you the one and only possible message of world peace.
This is a message of hope, tremendous hope. And he said unto me, you must prophesy again.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
The most important and the main threat that we are facing today is subversion from within.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's 100%. It's so clear. And here we are sitting here this week, and the director of national intelligence, who could not be more perfect for this particular role in this moment in U.S. history, Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, ran for Democrat presidential, was a presidential, in the primaries there for the Democrat Party, was chastised, was pretty much thrown out of her party.
Was called a Russian asset.
Was called a Russian asset. And so she's like in this perfect position to be the face for this subversion.
I mean, this is what these malign actors did, Sean. Any reliable intelligence that exonerated Trump was classified and buried until now, while phony intel was conjured up and peddled as credible just to frame Donald Trump. And Obama, he was central in all of this. So as I wrote in a column this week, never before has an American president connived to sabotage and destroy his successor as Barack Obama did, Sean.
More importantly, what about this strike force announced just before this program tonight by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi?
We've been talking about this for a while. This is what the Justice Department does when it wants to pursue a large conspiracy case, a racketeering case, a large fraud case. The strike force was the tool of choice in taking down the mafia and other organized crime organizations like the Russian mob and the Irish mob. It is a tool that's unveiled when they have a serious and widespread complex that they think is acting as a criminal organization. So tonight, the people who have been referred by Tulsi Gabbard, Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, they're being treated like the mob bosses of the past and the drug kingpins of the past in the way the Justice Department goes about. That doesn't mean they've committed a crime yet. They get the benefit of the doubt. But a strike force is a very serious vehicle to trying to prove that grand conspiracy case that we've been talking about.
The truth is, Tulsi struck a nerve because late last night, all the president's men came crawling out of the woodwork to cry on CNN. Clapper says he did nothing wrong, but he's still lawyering up. Now he knows what it's like. Comey's main man, McCabe, also chimed in to claim the FBI said Russia never affected the election.
When the director says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation, tonight we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. After 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people. It's very disconcerting. It really is. And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
I think that people are underestimating the significance of Trump now saying on multiple occasions, in other words, he seems to say this now more than once a day, that what happened in the White House was treason. And the person who did it is Obama. So it's not Hillary, although she played her part with the Steele dossier. It's not even Clapper and Comey and Brennan, because think about it. I'm sure they hated Trump, but why did they do it? Who told them it would be okay? Who is the driver of the scheme? Barack Obama.
As we've been saying all week, it's pretty incredible to see the tables turn, or as Jesse said there, now Clapper knows what it's like to have to lawyer up. And now he knows what it's like to face this charge of treason, treasonous activity and behavior. The tables have definitely turned, and dramatically so, and over a relatively short period of time. You're listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. We appreciate you joining us on today's show, the last show of the week. Hard to believe we're already at the Friday episode of the Trumpet Daily. You can get to the live stream, you or your friends, family. Just go to trumpetdaily.com or go to the Rumble channel, rumble.com/Trumpet Daily. Lots to get to on today's show, including WorldWatch, if we can squeeze that into the end of the show. My son texted me yesterday or this morning, and he was commenting on this week's shows. He's in Jerusalem at the moment, and he said it's hard to believe that the main story in conservative media at Fox News is Obama guilty of treason and all of his henchmen. And as my son was saying, you know, God's work, God's watchman was saying this 17, 16 years ago. And it's all laid out there in America Under Attack. That came out 13 years ago, 12 years ago. It's pretty amazing, the insight that God gives to his church, his family. And, you know, there have been some twists and turns along the way. And I'll get to that a little bit later, the timeline here, and just how God has exposed, not just silenced, and removed, but exposed Obama. There were, as I say, some surprising twists along the way, but the general framework of how this is playing out, it was all there in passages like Amos 7, 2 Kings 14, and so on. Listen to this representative talking about how that Obama cannot escape the culpability here. He's the one who authorized all of this treasonous action. This is clip 4.
What else did you see at the time that was particularly damning that you believe implicates President Obama in all of this?
Well, the fact that he was the president of the United States and had the meeting, that in and of itself shows that he was in on it. I mean, he essentially authorized it. He can't escape any kind of culpability here because it happened on his watch. So he either needs to come forward and say, no, I was never present in that meeting. No, I never authorized any of that, and let his henchmen swing, or he needs to take his licks like a man would. And the fact of the matter, I don't expect either of those two things to happen. It's going to come out. We already know. The American people were subjected to a fraud that if it were anybody else but President Trump would be entirely unacceptable. If this had happened to, for example, to a President Biden or to a President Obama or to a President Clinton, the American people would have been outraged because it's an American president that it happened to.
Think about how the media, the regime media, would have been outraged. To actually, you remember early on in 2017 when it was, I think Mark Levin was the first who was just putting all of these newspaper articles together from the New York Times, the regime media. March, I think it was, 2017, and he said, hey, they're spying on Trump. They're admitting it. And you can read a little bit between the lines, but they're spying. They were spying on his campaign, and they're spying on him now. And I mean, the heads exploded at MSNBC. They thought, there is no way that's happening. And now look at how much we know, how much more we know, how much Tulsi Gabbard is revealing. And yet still, you see all of this obstruction of justice. You see the lies, you see the outrage, you see the sobbing, Obama officials on CNN coming out with their denials, although acknowledging they have to lawyer up. Listen to this exchange on MSNBC. This host is interviewing, I guess he's an intel expert. This is clip 5.
And so, Chris, throwing it all the way back to 2016, it is a long time ago. You've been part of the Intel Committee for a long time. Is there any doubt about the intelligence that found Russia tried to help Trump in that election?
So no, and not any election really since the Cold War.
No, but, I mean, it happens all the time. So notice how oily these snake oil salesmen are. Did he help? Was he a Russian stooge, Donald Trump? Was he an agent? I mean, he didn't even really answer the question there. But you heard in the cold open, they said McCabe, I didn't see this clip, but I'll just take Jesse's word for it. McCabe's out there saying that the FBI said Russia never affected the election. So which is it? We never said there were votes that switched. And then you got this guy saying, yeah, they influenced it, but I mean, it happens all the time. It happens every election cycle. They just can't say the truth. As simply and as straightforward as Tulsi Gabbard has been doing. And that's why the regime media hates her so much. Because she's exposing that kind of, workaround. Well, let's just say yes and no, and then hopefully the host will move right on. These people don't really love their country or the truth. They're not defenders of the truth. Far from it. They've had a long history. more than 17 years of casting truth to the ground. This point that Taibbi made, I wasn't able to play this clip yesterday. Let me just play. I was going to play another one first. The Clapper. Yeah, before we get to Taibbi, this is back to Clapper, and notice how he says that, I gave you the montage the other day where Clapper's out there saying, yeah, Obama ordered it. Obama's the one that told us to do this. Obama was in charge. And now he's trying to put a little distance between those strong statements of the past and say that, yeah, well, I mean, Obama, he did give the order, but he didn't tell us how that this should play out, this intel assessment. This is clip one.
I was present at the meeting that everybody talks about, and I heard directly what President Obama asked us to do, which was to compile all the reporting and summarize it that we had accumulated in the run-up to the election of 2016, put it in one document in various levels of classification, and including a public release. And he wanted that done before the end of his administration. It was not to concoct intelligence or make it up or anything of the sort, which is absurd.
So he told you to investigate, but you're saying he did not tell you what conclusion to reach.
He did not.
They had the meeting on December 9th, 2016, and they leaked the contents of what would be that assessment that day to the New York Times, to the Washington Post. I gave you those stories Monday. The headlines. December 9, 2016, the headline at the Washington Post, secret CIA assessment says Russia was trying to help Trump win the White House. I mean, that had never been proclaimed. And it came on the same day Obama said we need a new intel assessment. So here again, Clapper's still lying. I mean, they're trying to move some of the parts around. They're trying to cover their tracks still. This is what Taibbi said on Megyn Kelly's show, clip 13.
You can see on December 9th, there is an order from the Director of National Intelligence Office basically giving out directions on how to put together a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request. But as they're giving out the assignment, the homework is already published in the New York Times and the Washington Post. In other words, they hadn't even started work yet, or group work, on this assessment, and they were already telling everybody in the media what the conclusion was. So the entire work period of this had to be a sham. Essentially, they pre-concluded what was going to be in the assessment and started leaking in advance.
And there's no question, it appears, that this was done at the direction of the President of the United States, then Barack Obama.
No question. Notice, pre-concluded, says Taibbi. Concluded is even in the New York Times article from that day. December 9, 2016. Secret CIA assessment says Russia was trying to help Trump win the White House. Notice the first line. The CIA has concluded. The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win the presidency. So, I mean, yeah, even then they were using words like intervened and so on so that they could cover their tracks later. Well, we didn't actually say that votes were switched. You said it was hacked. For years you said it was hacked by the Russians. And that the first line of the dirty dossier, Russian regime has been cultivating, supporting, and assisting Trump for at least 5 years. On December 9th, actually before this, I'll get to that in a second, December 6th, right around that anniversary of my father's firing, December 7th, 1989, they had already concluded that Russia intervened to help Trump, and they tied it together. They wedded it with the dirty dossier. That was attached. Comey wanted it in the assessment. That's the first line in the New York Times article. 4 words in. The CIA has concluded. That's December 9th, not January 6th, when the assessment came out. The 9th of December. They've exposed themselves. Liars, traitors, guilty of treason. The New York Times editorial board, Russia's hand in America's election. That was 2 days later, December 11th. So they were on it, the regime media. I mean, the regime, that would be Obama, the dear leader, he let the dogs loose on December 9th. And all those media outlets, they were on board with this. You can see why they're so furious right now. They've been exposed. I mean, you see Caitlin Collins in that White House press briefing the other day, and Levitt just smacks her down, as she should. The Federalist, this article appeared today, I believe. John Brennan's 5 lies that set Russiagate in motion. I mean, these people lied. A lot of the lies were under oath. Clapper, Brennan, and they've never been indicted. They've never been prosecuted. Here the other side, or their side, entrapped General Flynn. Got him to make a tiny little misstatement, a miscalculation. And then they harassed him. Well, really, the main goal was to run him out of office. They didn't want him in the White House assisting Donald Trump. And shame on Mike Pence for running him off, for saying, hey, General Flynn made me look bad, so we got to get rid of him. Trump shouldn't have listened to him. But really, you talk about traitors. There were plenty of them in the Trump White House, in the Trump administration, first time around. The Federalist says, yet as the new HPSCI report reveals, President Obama had already ordered the creation of the intelligence assessment 2 days earlier, on December 6th, before the presidential daily briefing and before any intelligence concluded that Putin had a preference. The conclusion came first. The intelligence was bent to match it. And you can see it even in the New York Times article. The CIA has concluded. The conclusion came first. And then they just bent and massaged the intelligence to go along with it. I mean, here it says December 6th, Obama hatched this nefarious plot. And then the presidential daily briefing, that was either the 7th or the 8th, I forget which day, but that was the briefing in which there was intel saying that Russia did not intervene, that Russia did not help either side. And yet Obama, he scrapped all that. And the Russia hoax was born. The Federalist says the first was a snippet from a lone human intelligence source with an anti-Trump bias who claimed Putin had made this decision after he had come to believe that the Democratic nominee had better odds of winning the U.S. presidential election, and that candidate Trump, whose victory Putin was counting on, We don't even know who this source is. Maybe we'll find that out later. But basically, they launched this Russia collusion hoax based upon that statement primarily. Putin wanted Trump to win, and so they were off and running. And as I've said this week, I mean, so much of this was known. The fact that it was a hoax, the attacks on Trump all through his first term, the illegal spying, so much of it was known and uncovered along the way, but nobody would do anything about it. I mean, it's nauseating to listen to these rhino Republicans almost bragging that, well, you know, what Tulsi revealed, I mean, I was on the committee. I knew all of that. Well, what did you do about it? If you knew it was going on, and then, like I said yesterday, then to have a classified document or a review basically thrown down the rabbit hole in somewhere in the CIA vault, and it just sits there for 5 years. But all of the people that participated in that investigation and all of the treasonous activity they uncovered, and then I guess just put it in the closet and close the door. Move on. We can't go after the dear leader. I mean, he's got immunity. He can do whatever he wants. Listen to Trey Gowdy. He used to be in Congress, and now, as I said earlier this week, he's got his cushy little job at Fox News. Clip 8.
Well, Obama has immunity. We learned that when the Supreme Court said presidents have immunity for official acts. So anyone who says that Barack Obama is going to be prosecuted needs to go back and read that opinion. As for Clapper, Comey, Brennan, we had him in 2017. You just played the clip. He lied to a congressional hearing. The time to prosecute him would have been before the statute of limitations had run. So whether or not they have additional lies, I don't know. I defer to DOJ. But like I said, this may be new to your listeners and your viewers. It's not new to those of us who are investigating.
It's old news. We all knew it. Now, he's not the only one, obviously. I mean, you put Bill Barr in there. Even Donald Trump. He admitted yesterday with respect to Hillary. I mean, he was too nice to these people. It took a while for him to wake up. We've seen that kind of play out on a smaller scale with Hamas. He tried to be nice to them. He tried to negotiate with them. He said earlier today that Hamas, I don't think they want a deal. I think they want to die. And the last few hostages there, that's going to be the most difficult part of this relationship, this exchange, whatever you call it. Because they know, Hamas knows, that once they lose those few remaining hostages, that's their last bargaining chip. So he's finally waking up to it. But like I say, I mean, God's church has been saying the same thing for 17 years on this attack, on the fundamental transformation of the United States. I'll never forget living in Jerusalem that summer, 2008, when Barack Obama was traveling the world. He was campaigning in the States. He went to Germany, and something like 200,000 people showed up. And all you had to do is scratch a little bit beneath the surface to understand that this was a Marxist radical. And yet people were swooning all over the world as he was out there vowing to fundamentally transform America. Chris Matthews had the little tingle go up his leg. And there were some revelations. There were a few, Hannity and a couple others, that said, hey, what about this Jeremiah Wright character? What about all these associations he had with Marxist radicals in his younger years? What about his mentor? Nobody cared. We got to get him in. And we got to get him in, especially because he's black. He's half black. And so all of our race problems will go away if we do this. Well, there were twists and turns along the way, but the framework of prophecy was clear. You look at some of these lead investigators, whether it was in the Nunes bunch or Horowitz or the other guy, I forget his name, they investigated, the special counsel. or Trey Gowdy and all those in Congress. I mean, I've done this show 10 years. Trey Gowdy, others that Ratcliffe, you know, when they were in some of those committees, I mean, they had great sound bites. We've played them on this show. Senator Kennedy, Lindsey Graham, I mean, they're really good at crafting the perfect soundbite that sounds so strong. And they're also really good at just dusting off and moving forward when they've uncovered crimes. Look at what they uncovered with respect to Hunter and the Biden crime family. I mean, Obama's connected to that as well. Who was president when all that was really getting in motion? That would be the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama. Going back to those relations, pay to play, 2014, 2015, and Hunter traveling the world on Air Force Two with his father. Hunter getting a gig at Burisma. I mean, this is just Ezekiel 8. It's perfect. If you're reading Ezekiel 8, looking through that hole in the wall and seeing all of these abominations. But God sees weakness in the face of that abomination also as abominable. Why wouldn't you do something? Why did you let, in some cases, the statute of limitations play out? Why'd you let them run the clock out? Well, from our perspective, you step back and just look at God's timing in all of this. It's all happened according to God's perfect, impeccable timeline. And as I say, there were some surprising twists along the way. I'll never forget. I told you about just shaking my head watching Obama and his popularity skyrocket in 2008. And then after 8 years of some bitter affliction, to see how much they just dismissed Donald Trump, even as they were spying on him, and Obama assuring the country there's no way that the Russians could meddle in our elections. No way. Everything's decentralized and so on. And then the way Obama unleashed this vicious attack, this demonic attack on Donald Trump, General Flynn, and all the rest, even before they came into office, even before the inauguration. But even the shock of Donald Trump winning in November of 2016, in that case, I was at Edstone. I was up early the next morning, and I couldn't believe it. It was just stunning. And then to see how the radical left attacked him from day one, even as Obama was talking about this smooth transition. Well, that's what America is known for. When one president gives way to the next, it's always a smooth transition. No, not in that case. Certainly not. He was plotting and scheming to destroy Donald Trump, to destroy all things Trump. And then when you think about what we saw for those 4 years, how vicious, how violent, how demonic it was, I mean, that was a shock as well. I mean, even with Trump coming into office, telling us it's a swamp, telling us it's a deep state, they're dishonest, they're evil. Well, we saw the extent of that evil. After that first term was over, it was hard to imagine it could get any worse. And yet, look at what happened. They stole the election. They stole the election. They set up January the 6th. They did everything they could to frame Donald Trump and to keep the truth about the election buried. That's the way they operate. Another fraud, another hoax, another intel assessment, so to speak. And then silencing Donald Trump. It looked pretty bad, didn't it? There's no one among the talking heads that was saying in December of 2020 or January of 2021, or certainly not after January 6th, oh, you know what? I think Donald Trump's coming back. I know he's been banned from Twitter and Facebook, but I think he's coming back as president. No, we thought we saw the full extent of the evil, the hatred, the violence during Donald Trump's first term. But after they stole the election, look at what we witnessed during the fake presidency. And then especially as Donald Trump announces that he's going to run again. And all the lawfare, all the appearances in court that Donald Trump had to make just last summer, a year ago, as they tried to put him into prison for 900 years? Seriously? I mean, one thing about left-wing activist attorneys, they will go after you. The indictments will land at your doorstep. Be assured. Merrick Garland, I mean, if Obama said do it, they raided Mar-a-Lago. They tried, as I said yesterday, they tried to assassinate him. Twice, just a year ago, last summer. But as to how the tables have turned on the dear leader, even in the last few months, all of this played out according to God's impeccable timing, as I say. Obama had to be silenced first. As I said yesterday, even if all this is uncovered, when Trey Gowdy was looking into it, that was when Obama was high. He was powerful. They were still swooning. Nobody's going to mess with him. You could find "I'm guilty of treason" on his forehead and they still wouldn't do anything. But now you see it's a different story. He's at a low point politically. I mean, even just looking at the politics, as I told you, when Trump was coming in for his second term, I mean, there's quite a few people in the Democrat Party that say, hey, we need to move on from Obama and his influence on our party. And then now, this week in particular, you've got the talking heads, at least on the conservative side, saying Obama, treason, coup, sedition in the same sentence. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. God had to silence him first. God had to humble him, if that's possible. And now you see people that aren't so, they're not so terrified at the thought of going after the dear leader. Now, the thing about all this, the timeline I just kind of summarized right there, it's all here. It's all in here. Even the fact that Obama's going to be silenced and that Trump's coming back and that Obama's lies, Obama's treason is going to be exposed. As I say, there's twists and turns along the way. We don't know if all that exposure means prison sentences as well, but it should. It's an attack. Obama called it, he'd like to call it a transformation. It was a fundamental attack on the United States of America, a communist infiltration. And you know, in that bit we played at the start with General Flynn, he talks about America's enemies, Russia, China, and how that they know that even when America is powerful, America's still vulnerable from within. I mean, he basically talked about a communist infiltration. Now that's in He Was Right, another brochure that we make available for free. Just go to our website, thetrumpet.com, and you can get to America Under Attack or He Was Right. You can also call our operators if you're anywhere around North America, 1-866-930-3024, Psalm 35 and verse 8. It says, let destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he has hid catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall. I mean, God's well aware of the evil that's been going on these past 17 years. He sees it. He sees the lies, the nefarious activity, the shenanigans, the backstabbing, the wrong judgments, unjust judgments. He sees the sickness in leadership. He's the one that prophesied it in Isaiah 3. God hasn't been happy with this kind of bitter affliction. You read in 2 Kings 14 that he looked at this bitter affliction in Obama's attempt to blot out America, and he said, I'm not going to let it happen. So God silenced him, and now the truth's coming out. Okay, maybe it's coming out again. Maybe this is the third or the fourth wave of it. But this time you see it pack some punch. Because of Tulsi Gabbard, and because, as Dinesh said there, you've got Trump now, almost every day, talking about Obama leading a coup, an insurrection, and being guilty of treason. Hopefully he doesn't let it go. We certainly don't. I mean, for those of you that have been with this show for 10 years, it may sound somewhat redundant at times, on weeks like this in particular. But I just wanted to step back and look at the bigger picture for a while today, because it really and truly is inspiring to see how that God, He knew about this all along. And it all unfolds exactly the way it fits into His timetable. So, I mean, you could get frustrated about the statute of limitations, I suppose, but just know from God's perspective, it's playing out exactly the way He wanted it to. Exactly the way He said it would. If you read America Under Attack, of course, all through those years, or at least the years we had it in publication, we were urging you to do so. But, I mean, in some ways, it's almost a more fascinating read now. Seeing how it's all being fulfilled. Psalm 37, verse 12, it says, "The wicked plot against the just." We've sure seen a lot of that. "The wicked plots against the just, and gnashes upon him with his teeth." It says, "The Lord shall laugh at him, for he sees that his day is coming." Just wait. Don't get discouraged. Don't get depressed. Just keep going out there, God says to His watchmen. God says to His work, just keep going out there. Don't be afraid. Just like Moses told Joshua, be courageous, be bold. Just stay the course. I mean, even all of those events that we talk so often about in Scripture. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, what was it with Abraham? Wasn't he 75 and God said, you're going to have a son? And so they waited for 25 years. I mean, human nature being the way it is, if God says, hey, this is going to happen, you almost demand it happen that very second. But what if we have to wait in faith? Well, the truth of it is, oftentimes, that's the way God wants it to be. How well received is a message in 2009 or 10 that basically says, this man hates America. He wants to destroy America as we know it. He's corrupt. He's a traitor. Well, you know how the radical left reacted to that 15, 16 years ago. But even the conservative right would have said, now, come on, it's not that bad. You're a little extreme. And God says, look, just keep the message out there. Be relentless with it. Be consistent. Stand by the truth. Stand by the sure word of prophecy. And the wicked were plotting all along the way. It just shows how much we do need God's guidance, but also His protection. But as that psalm brings out, the Lord laughs at him, for He sees that his day is coming. God is just sitting back there, kind of chuckling. He really thinks he's going to be able to do this. All of this, another takeaway, right, is that this is God's doing. I mean, Trey Gowdy says there, we knew all this when we were investigating it, and they knew the Durham report came out. I mean, everybody's known this. It's God's doing. He's basically admitting, if you read between the lines, that we couldn't do anything about it. God had to silence Obama, to move Obama, to even put away the demonic spiritual force behind Obama that had so many people swooning. The will worship. God's crushed that. He silenced Obama. And now the truth is coming out. Early on, I mean, you look at Mein Kampf, that came out about 100 years ago. And people, when they went through that, they thought, Hitler's surely he's exaggerating. He can't really follow through on this. They just wouldn't believe it. And Germany votes him in a few years later. He becomes the chancellor in what, the late 30s? Mid-30s, I guess. And we know what he did in the 40s. But initially, though, people just didn't want to believe it. They wanted to negotiate with him. They wanted to sign peace deals with him, like Neville Chamberlain and the rest. And there was only one voice sounding the alarm all through those wilderness years, coming with the same consistent message. Listen, this is going to happen. Take heed. Winston Churchill didn't win any friends during that time period. And really the disgusting truth is that even during it, when he was fighting Hitler, he didn't exactly win a lot of friends politically. They voted him out of office as soon as the war ended. That's unbelievable. You'd think they'd make him a saint or something. No swooning for Churchill. That's because he was doing a work for God. He didn't realize it. I mean, in his own way, I guess he did. He felt like he was given favor. He felt like he was called to do that job primarily. But he didn't understand God's truth or purpose or plan. That's what I mean. America Under Attack. This is in chapter 1. This is at the beginning of the book. It says, January 20th, 2017 was Barack Obama's last day in the Oval Office. That day, he left a handwritten message for the incoming president, Donald Trump. He wrote that America's presidents are, quote, guardians of those democratic institutions and traditions like rule of law, separation of powers, equal protection, and civil liberties that our forebears fought and bled for. Wow, that sounds pretty good from the dear leader. He wrote to Donald Trump, regardless of that push and pull of daily politics, it's up to us to leave those instruments of our democracy at least as strong as we found them. Wow. My father says, Mr. Obama's note seemed noble and sincere. It was treated as such by many politicians and journalists, but is one of the most diabolical and hypocritical messages ever written by an American president. Well, that's a strong take. I mean, that's a hot take. That's my father's reaction to the lies. Yeah, he said, hey, listen, we're defending our country, our Constitution, our founding documents. Barack Obama spent his 8 years as president doing exactly the opposite of what he told Mr. Trump, advancing his agenda to weaken those democratic institutions and traditions in pursuit of his supreme goal of fundamentally transforming the United States of America. There it is. He said that in 2008, just a couple months before he would be inaugurated. And we knew exactly what he meant by that. And a lot of others just absolutely did not think he meant what he actually said. They dismissed it. Well, surely it doesn't mean, there was a few voices that said, transform? I mean, do we really need to be transformed? In Obama's mind, yes, indeed. It says here, after leaving office, Mr. Obama continued to pursue this goal. He spearheaded the effort to harm Donald Trump's Make America Great Again agenda, an effort that included illegally spying on him and impeaching him twice. He directed the radical left's treasonous battle to prevent Mr. Trump from being reelected at all costs. The United States entered its greatest political crisis ever on November 3rd, 2020. To make Joe Biden president, the radical left flagrantly manipulated the nation's voting system. And yet they came out, Krebs and others, oh, it was perfect. Bill Barr, hey, it was perfect. Never mind what I said to Wolf Blitzer before the election. It was perfect. Nothing to see here. It says, but this vast network of lies, corruption, and lawlessness all points back to one man. Who do you suppose that is? It's in America Under Attack. Barack Hussein Obama. As we will see, my father says, this epic scandal would not have taken place if not for Obama's leadership of the Democratic Party and the radical left. And there is proof that he not only was aware of the plot to pervert the 2020 election, but was directly or indirectly leading those pulling the strings. Even when he was out of office, he was running his shadow government. He was manipulating the political scene. He was manipulating the voting system. It says, many have referred to this as a rolling coup, an ongoing insurgence against American constitutional government. And they are right. This coup was initiated by Barack Obama before he left office in January 2017. You see, and now we know. Now we know. Tulsi Gabbard, she releases all these documents last week. She releases another one this week about this congressional review of the fake intel assessment that Barack Obama ordered. Even as he was writing that beautiful message instructing Donald Trump to guard democracy and the rule of law, this man was devising plans to overthrow Mr. Trump and return the radical left to the White House. There is no denying the truth of this section in America Under Attack, and it is in chapter 1. It's right there at the very beginning. It says here, Barack Obama is unlike any other president America has ever had. His public persona has been shaped by his 3 memoirs, which the media have accepted at face value, but there are many disturbing truths about his childhood and early adulthood that he does not mention in those autobiographies that should have been known and examined when the American people were considering him for the nation's most powerful office. It's amazing how much about his life was concealed or distorted by the media before he became president. It's as if Americans were not allowed to know the man who was about to be their leader. That's America Under Attack, which was first published in 2013. Obviously, there's some later tidbits in that section I just read to you, so we've added to it over the years. But it's been the same. It's been consistent. The message there. It went by that title, for example, from the very beginning. America has been under attack. And only God could have intervened to save America, to turn the tables on Barack Obama, and to put Donald Trump back in office. There's a piece at the Federalist this week. It says there was no peaceful transfer of power in 2017. Well, I mean, that's chapter 1 of America Under Attack. I mean, it's a good piece at the Federalist. But it's appearing here in July of 2025, and it reads like it came out of chapter 1 of America Under Attack. That's pretty amazing. How wonderful of a blessing the sure word of Bible prophecy is. The peaceful, and then the Federalist piece refers to the note that Barack Obama wrote to Donald Trump. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy. And over the next few years, we are going to show that to the world. The Federalist says those are the words of then President Obama days after Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016. So I guess it's not the note necessarily that he left for Trump, but this is what he was saying all during that transition. Yeah, peaceful transition of power. And the truth is that it was exactly the opposite. It was a violent transition. It was a treasonous transition. Treason in the sense that Obama unleashed this attack on the presidency, on Trump, on America. It says here, as it turns out, like many remarks issued throughout the course of his disastrous presidency, it was a complete and total lie. Amid the backdrop of his I Heart Democracy shtick, the 44th president was covertly working alongside the heads of America's intelligence agencies to subvert democracy, to subvert it. And then it goes on to talk about the documents that Tulsi Gabbard has released. And we're now seeing this all again in some cases. Some of the facts are not new, but we're certainly at a different time in America's history. 16, 17 years on, God He gives us all the framework that we need to keep sounding the alarm, even if we're in the wilderness for a time. And then when you see how it plays out, it really and truly is remarkable and inspiring to see, to be a part of. Again, it makes you very, very thankful for the truth of God, for Bible prophecy. Well, there's a few other articles I can get to, but I think we've got almost enough time to squeeze in all of the WorldWatch segment for this week. So we'll conclude today's show with that. You're listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. We thank you for joining us on today's show. We thank you for joining us all week, and we'll see you next time.
South Korean leaders plan to retake wartime command of their troops from the United States, Yonhap News reported on July 15th. The report says this will likely occur within the 5-year term of South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. In 1950, as the Korean War raged, South Korean authorities transferred operational control, or OPCON, of all South Korean forces to the U.S.-led United Nations Command. In 1994, peacetime OPCON was returned to South Korea, but the U.S. retained wartime control. Now that U.S. President Donald Trump is pushing South Korea and other allies to assume more control of their security, retaking wartime OPCON is a priority for South Korea. The Trumpet has predicted for decades, based on Bible prophecy, that U.S. power in Asia will be reduced and its alliances in the region will be ruptured. Today, a growing number of trends, including an increasingly independent South Korea, show how quickly this could happen. To understand the Bible passages this forecast is based on and to know where current trends are leading, order our free booklet, Russia and China in Prophecy. Russia is intensifying its offensive against Ukraine and likely preparing for a major push before U.S. President Donald Trump's 50-day clock runs out, analysts said July 17th. President Trump said on July 14th that he was pursuing a new policy toward Russia's war, which includes supplying Ukraine with advanced U.S. weaponry. He said if Russia doesn't reach a ceasefire within 50 days, then he may place 100% secondary tariffs on countries that do business with Russia. This would deal a major blow to Russia's oil industry and could rapidly dry up war funding. As Russia's war on Ukraine reaches the 3.5-year mark with staggering losses on both sides, Russian President Vladimir Putin appears unfazed in his determination to conquer the nation. To understand his biblically prophesied significance, read The Prophesied Prince of Russia. The China-Taiwan military balance is tipping in China's favor, the Japanese government warned in its Defense of Japan 2025 paper published July 15th. Japan's paper warned about China's rapid military buildup and its increasing use of gray zone activities that are aggressive but fall short of open warfare. By swarming Taiwan's civilian vessels, conducting war drills near its territory, making incursions into its air defense identification zone, and poaching its diplomatic partners, China is working to wear the nation down before open war even begins. With China's increasing aggression and America's volatile foreign policy, the balance of power is tipping toward China. To learn more about the likely future of Taiwan, read Taiwan Betrayal. To learn more about current world news and how it relates to Bible prophecy, please visit thetrumpet.com.